I'm Anthony Demont for Loyalist e-Journalism. This May, in a speech delivered in Toronto, Sean Brant, the outspoken member of the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte, questioned why First Nations issues weren't a higher priority.
And every time that I've read a newspaper that talks about what's going on in Saskatchewan or Davis Inlet or Grassy Narrows or wherever, it's always a story that talks about the heartache and the hardship of people within those communities. And I remember one distinctly in 1994 when a 10-year-old boy went out of his school and he wrapped the swing chain around his neck and he hung himself. And I've listened to those stories year after year after year. And it doesn't appeal to people's compassion and people's sensitivity. When those issues were coming forward, people were making education a priority. They were making health care a priority. And in the Maclean's poll, we rated like number 20th below multicultural affairs.
Brant Bardy, the communications officer for the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte, acknowledged the low profile of First Nations issues in the recent provincial election. However, he was encouraged by the recent speech from the throne in the Ontario legislature.
In the throne speech, I guess there was a significant mention of Aboriginal issues and Aboriginal agenda, and one of the most significant things coming out of the province of Ontario was, of course, the Upper Wash Inquiry report that was recently released, and that in itself sets out some guidelines on how Ontario is going to reconcile its relationship with Indian people in Indian land claims within the province of Ontario. They're talking about one of the promises made is there's 78 recommendations in the Upper Wash Inquiry report in total. And one of those recommendations is that they're going to set up a Treaty Commission of Ontario, which will clearly define the role of Ontario in land claims. We're encouraged that another recommendation was to set up a standalone Ministry of Aboriginal Affairs, and the government has taken, the provincial government of Ontario has taken action on that, and now there is a standalone Ministry of Aboriginal Affairs, and former Attorney General Michael Bryant, Minister Michael Bryant, has been appointed to that ministry. So this is significant, and it's the first time in the history of the province that there's been a standalone ministry to deal with Aboriginal affairs. Prior to that, it was a secretariat that was shared by another ministry. The Ministry of Natural Resources, which is kind of a conflict when you talk about land claims and natural resources in the same context, because obviously there's adverse positions that exist with Aboriginal peoples in that regard. So we're encouraged, I think, the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte. In our land claim, there has been preliminary discussion with Minister Bryant, and he seems like a reasonable person, and we're hoping that there'll be a representative from Ontario sitting at the land claim negotiation table, because all efforts by the Mohawks of the Bay of Quinte and Canada to get a provincial representative at the negotiation table have been in vain to date.
Where's the process at currently? For Loyalist e-Journalism, I'm Anthony Demont.